This conference will now be recorded.
Yay.
Very true. Kelly just got it up and running though. Oh, okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you though. I appreciate it. All right. So it is now 5:10. So we will call this meeting to order. This is the finance meeting. Caller 1 is Julia O'Rourke, and caller 2 is Lori Morgan. So for the record, they are both here, and we know who those callers are.
And
in addition to us,
present too. Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Nick Happ and Sally Bennett and Kelly Simmons are all also present. And let's on start number 1 here, disclosure of conflict of interest. Nope. Awesome. Number 2 is public comment. And I do not see anybody here, and I have not been told otherwise, so I'm going to go with no on that. Moving on to number 3, Azavar. Sally, do we have any updates on Azavar?
The latest regarding the letter that Frank signed to ComEd. I know that Azavar released a press release in the Chicago Times basically calling out ComEd, and they had sent a message to me to forward to Frank that they're offering help in case any local media had questions for him. But to my knowledge, nothing ever came of it in our village. So I also wanted to point out on the agenda that I think because of the cow meeting, for some reason, we don't have the notation to vote and approve the minutes. So I don't know how that can be handled, if we can approve it or if we have to wait until the next meeting. Does anyone else know?
Oh, yeah, we probably have to have it on here, don't we?
Could it be under, I suppose we can't vote. We could have it in new business. I know for Public Works, it's too late to add to the agenda, but Public Works, they approved the minutes at the last board meeting.
Yeah, we don't have it on this agenda for the board meeting, do we?
No, I didn't even think about approving the minutes.
What we could do
is mess this up.
I could just put both minutes for this meeting and the previous meeting to be approved at the next meeting.
That's fine. And did you say it was the Chicago Times?
Thought he said Chicago Tribune. Chicago
I didn't know
Tribune.
Chicago Times. Okay. I think it's the New York Times. I don't think the Chicago has a Times.
Sun Times, I think, is Chicago.
All right, so we're still moving forward on that. Nothing big on that. We're just waiting to hear back about ComEd. Have they bothered you a lot lately? As in, asking you additional questions, or they pretty much have everything they need?
They haven't bothered me at all since Frank signed the letter. So I think they're just trying to collect their, whatever it is, 40% on all those back taxes. So I don't know what the next move is.
All right, well, as long as they're still moving forward. Let's go to the number 4 then, the audit. And I know there was an email on this one.
You should have received the audit in an email, the electronic version. Nothing on the management letter other than segregation of duties, like always. And the auditor, Jenny Blocker, will be speaking at the board meeting this evening. So, any questions you might have, you could definitely address with her.
Hey, Sally, I do have one question that maybe you can help me with, and that's those adjusting entries that she put on the audit committee letter. Those were some pretty big numbers in regards to the pension. How should we be thinking about those?
Those aren't actually, I mean, that is just how we have to report it. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not, that doesn't affect our budget or anything like that. So it's just, I don't know what you would call it. It's just for purposes of knowing what our liabilities are.
Right.
Um,
But why did that come out in the audit? Do we just not normally do that ourselves and make those entries, or that's what I'm trying to understand?
I believe we always have that. And that those are adjustments that Mark Olson creates. I think it's just a matter of visibility. I don't know. Like it, Mark and I do adjustments prior to the audit. So I think those are just for the purposes of knowing what the adjusting entries were. Not that we
that
have
was you and
them.
Mark? That was you and Mark doing it? It wasn't Jennifer when she did the audit saying these should have, these are adjustments that really should have been done or something? That's
Correct. That's just
okay.
informational on what, basically a snapshot of how the year's adjustments were for that. Because for GASB, we have to show certain things.
Mhm.
And that's what I believe that, because that's, maybe we've done that like 2 or 3 years in a row where that has had to be visible to the board in that way.
Okay.
I don't know how else to.
That's fine. That's fine.
It was the
I was just trying to
same,
understand.
it was reported the same way last year.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Just reading over the segregation of the duties there. So it's the division that we get every year, but so far everything's been fine with it because you look it over and then we look it over and then the board discusses it. Does anyone feel that's something that we need to address?
No.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to comment that in the past that we've been told that the only way to get rid of that statement is to hire more people to have a segregation of the duties.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my comment.
Now, would that be the same? Yeah, I mean, just making things up. If if Kelly did half of it and you did the other half, like you both split your jobs and then did a 50-50, not saying that's efficient, but would that cover the segregation of duties then? Because there's more than just you.
Yes, probably. And there are some things that, for instance, when I print checks for the board meeting, Kelly actually puts those in envelopes and puts them in the mail. And that was suggested to us years ago by our auditor as just an internal control, that because I originate the check, having someone else intervene and mail it would be a way to, I don't really understand it, but I guess just so that I'm not writing checks to myself or, to SB Industries or whatever, someone else is looking at it. But also we take so many steps because we have 3 signatures. 2 of those signatures are Frank and Sally Joe, and then we have Kelly, the deputy clerk, putting those in envelopes. So we do as many things as we can, and we've always, wholeheartedly done whatever we've been recommended to do just to to stay within the internal controls as best as we can.
Yeah, I think they're probably referring more to the fact that Sally is the one typically making the entries and she's also the one reconciling. And I just don't think, I mean, unless we want to add a lot of overhead, there's not a way to segregate, you know, the entry duties from the reconciliation duties. But I mean, we look over everything. We have an attorney that looks, or an accountant that looks over everything. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with what we have in place.
That's one of the reasons why we hired Mark, is not only to do the adjusting entries for the audit, but he also reviews my reconciliations every month and other things, just to be an internal control.
Sounds good. All right. Let's move on to number 5, the budget for 2020. We got the front office repairs and the cure expenses. I will tell you, being here in the village hall, that the repairs are looking great. We've got fancy new walls. We've got an intercom system with a camera, a fancy magnetic, like you push them to open, unlock the door. So things are looking really good on this end physically, as in PH, not FI. So let's go to the front office repairs then.
I had on here, there were 3 companies, because, okay, there are 2 things with the front office repairs. One thing are the repairs that have to do with the hail damage that are being reimbursed by our insurance company. And the other thing are the COVID-related changes that we made to be reimbursed to us from the Cures grant. Both things are going to require us to pay out of our current budget expenditures for things that we didn't account for. And which leads later on in the meeting to that supplemental appropriation ordinance that is number 9. But one of the things I wanted to talk about under the budget is we have designated expenses for the Cures grant, and those haven't been paid yet. I received the invoices, but I didn't have any direction. First off, I need to know what funds they're coming from, because Kelly and Chad were hesitant to say one way or the other how they wanted it, but personally I think those should be 50-50 O&M and general. And then beyond that, we would have to decide what line items they will come out of, you know, to get us through until we can amend our appropriation.
When you're saying 50-50, Sally, what are you referring to? The insurance reimbursements or the Cure Act expenses?
I'm thinking the Cure Act expenses.
But won't those go to, I mean, I don't know what's all on the list, so it's hard for me to tell you, yes, that sounds reasonable or not. I know that you guys talked about laptops for you and Kelly. And other than that, I don't know what else is on that list of Cure expenses.
We have a locksmith bill, the Rockford Tech bill, and Pitney Bowes, who put in the new window for exchanging the payments and things at the front window. Those 3 things are on the board agenda, totaling $4,541.87. And the reason why they're on the board agenda is because I would like to get board approval to pay them so that we don't have to wait until the next month, because they're not on the warrant list because there was no direction as to what fund they should come from. And then we want to get reimbursement as soon as possible, but the requirements for reimbursement, I have to show that it was paid. I have to show snapshots of it on our general ledger along with the check. And there's numerous proof that I have to provide that it was actually paid.
Holy cow. Put the cart before the horse there.
Yeah.
You don't have the money to pay it, but you're supposed to show that you paid it before you get reimbursed.
Exactly. So that's one of the burdens that we have in this meeting is I'm hoping for a recommendation so that we can bless that at the board meeting. And my suggestion is, and deal with this how you want, but I suggested 50-50, and I suggest 50% come out of office maintenance. And I know, Jeremy, I've offered that one up, that 10,000 up so many times, but first come, first serve. And I think the other half should come from the O&M contingency line item.
Oh, that makes it easy. Seriously, I mean, that seems to be the most logical thing to do.
I think the sooner we get that approved and get it going, get those people paid so that we don't have any discrepancy there, and then further on get reimbursed as soon as possible.
And so obviously this is just be a temporary thing. We can submit to get our refund and put that money back in those funds.
You got it.
Now, not that Illinois would ever not follow through, but do we need to look and see, in reality wise, we can just pull it out of anything if we're just going to get reimbursed, no problem. But if this doesn't happen, if we don't get reimbursed, how is this going to affect both of those funds? And do we need to transfer money from other places to those funds at that point? I don't want to play the what if game all day, but
well, these would be the best two funds to do that in. I mean, the contingency fund is just that, a contingency fund with no home until things come up. And then the office maintenance, we've deferred for how many years now, Sally? We just deferred again.
So that's my thinking too. Frank sounded pretty confident in that email about how he felt that we could defend those items to be COVID related. So also, and I know that's probably later in the meeting, but Kelly mentioned to me that she talked to Attorney Gaziano about bills related to COVID. And Mary has a system that allows her to search through documents by like a keyword. And she thinks that the amount of attorney bills related to COVID are around $10,000. So
that doesn't shock me.
And last meeting, Julie, you had mentioned that the attorney line item was right there at the full year, and I'm sure that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope Mary has some information.
Make sure that gets
I don't know legally how this supplemental ordinance works. I know that it has to be expenses that it can only be up to the new revenue that we receive. So that leads me to the question, well, we're offered this grant up to 127,000, whatever the number is. So can we put that in our ordinance as a possible spending thing, or do we have to have actuals?
For that full amount of the cure expenses, you said?
Yes.
And the reason for this is otherwise we're going to go over 100% on all of our funds until we get that reimbursement and it drops back down.
And I mean, this is just a budgetary thing that I think, obviously we wouldn't spend it if we don't get it, or if we don't have capability of getting it. But I don't know, Mary was hesitant about that when I mentioned it at the Public Works meeting. So that's something that I'm really curious about, and I hope she's looked into it so that we can move soon.
You don't know
Because
what
right
her
now we can only
hesitation
go.
was?
What?
Go ahead with Julie's question.
You don't know what her hesitation was, Sally?
Well, because it's not revenue that we've actually received, it's just promised to us as potential reimbursement. I think that could be the hesitation.
But that's the whole idea of a
Is that
budget,
not
isn't
Yes.
it?
So I'm really trying, but
Now, is
I
it
don't-
because
go ahead.
because we already submitted the budget, and now if we're trying to change it, is all the hoops we have to jump through?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's appropriate to mention in this item number, but that was one of the things I listened to the police meeting, and they had a donation that they wanted to spend, and that's the same premise. It's not in the budget, and it could be, they could spend the money, but it would have to come out of the current line items. There's no way for us to overspend unless we do a supplemental ordinance for the budget.
Okay, and that makes sense. Well, it doesn't really, but it
Yeah, because if it
budgeting
was
wise,
just a
it does
police
there.
thing, though, they could overspend a line by $1,500, could they not? I mean, it's just because we have all these other things going on.
Absolutely. And that's how I instructed Jeff. I said, just find a line item that has, the percentage is there that $1,500 wouldn't take you over. That's kind of a little cheap, but it would definitely work. I need to shut my phone off. It's driving me crazy.
Well, that was me, Sally. Are we in the same situation with building inspections too?
Yes. There's a whole list. I don't know if everyone saw this list. Hey, look. So the Cures Act, potential reimbursement. We had a payment from ComEd for $11,000. We've had insurance payments so far totaling $56,000. We have the police donation. We have an IRS faux pas that happened, and what's the other one? Permits that are over what we anticipated receiving, and that was as of September 9th. So this more than ever, we have to do this supplemental ordinance. It's just a matter of knowing exactly when to put the brakes on for these ongoing expenses so that we don't just run amok with our budget and be, in violation.
Mhm.
Sally, going back to these legal expenses, I was trying to remember what the numbers were and I couldn't get the darn thing open, but now I have it open. So through August 31st, just in the general fund alone, legal, we've already billed $29,000, and she only thinks 10 of that is COVID related.
Kelly, can you elaborate on that?
I have not looked at her review of all the legal invoices. I know she was working on it, highlighting, and I will look at that hopefully tomorrow. She just put it together over the weekend, so I haven't had a chance to review it yet. And from there, we can take a look at, but she and I, Attorney Gaziano and I both felt that it was probably close to $10,000 for such as the situations of the liquor licenses, extensions, and outdoor seating, and all of the other the different variations of the situations that occurred after March 16th. So
Yeah, I'm actually questioning on the low side, Kelly, because that's only a third of our total expenses she's billed, and it just seems like that's all we've been doing all year. But she could have had some. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
She probably had some ones late from the end of the year that she was rolling into January or something too that could have been non-COVID. I don't know.
Like I said, I haven't had a chance to review what she has prepared, but that was just our best guess. So it could very well be more than that, because there was a lot of contact between her and I, and Frank and I, and the board and her, between March and even the end of July. So, like I said, I haven't had a chance to review it. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Also, there were handbook issues at the beginning of the year, and I think there was probably quite a bit of billing from that too.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like it was this year, but it was.
Okay, so we've kind of been jumping all over the place here, but we're getting a lot of stuff covered, which is awesome. No, you're fine. We had to cover it anyway. So let's jump back up to number 6, which is the eyedrop and the water bill delinquency. I know Sally sent out a new one today. There it is. And so one of the big questions was, when do we want to start turning on the late fees again? Come on, Excel sheet. There you go.
Did I not print my own report? I don't think I did. So Kelly informed me that 2 of the people on the more current end under the line have paid. Brian Weevil paid $400 today, and yeah, Ron Atkins, which is the second one down, I believe he is current. How did you guys feel about my report to just sort of try to figure out the late payments from COVID? It's obviously increased year over year.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time with that report, Sally, because I was really trying to get my arms around, are people in this community struggling, or are they taking advantage of the system? Because I think that's what kind of spurred this whole conversation is, do people really need the time? And if you look at your report, I mean, I threw all kinds of different columns in it, which I didn't send out to everybody. I wanted to see how it compared year over year and then a month over month, just to see. And I think you had pointed this out, Sally, sometimes there's trends in the months where things just pick up for whatever reason. And it seems like August back to school, if you look at July versus August, even last year, there was a significant uptick in late pays and so forth. But, you know, these numbers in this year are up pretty substantially. But one thing I find interesting is, we get 30 days. It's a really, really big number, but it's not like it carries over to 60 days the next month. So it seems like people are probably paying, and Kelly could probably attest to this better than anybody. It seems like people are just taking more than their 30 days to pay, and they're paying late, but they're, for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, they're getting it paid. It's just getting paid a little late.
I would agree with that, Julie. I do believe also this past year we had an increase of the install of pools, which also created higher months, such as in June and July both, where people were filling not only their current pools that they've had, but new pools as well. So there were some higher billings that were abnormal. And some people then got a little behind on paying the higher water bill. And but then at the same time, we had a small number of people, and I want to say it's a small number of people that actually may have been affected by COVID. There was one particular family that I know of that it was getting to the point of I was getting ready to prepare the lien, which then they responded and paid it in full. So the letters are getting a response where in the past we've always had a delinquent notice or a water shut-off notice that would have gotten a response earlier. So with me, my response time is a little bit later according to our collection policy. But nonetheless, when those letters have gone out, they have gotten a response. As of today, for the 2020 totals, the current outstanding balance on the 120 days is around $630, which is the least that I've seen in the few months prior. So I think the letters are getting a response. I'm going to be sending out more letters for those that are at 90 days. I want to get them noticed before we turn those fees back on to prevent the bills from being even higher. So I have probably at least 15 to 20 letters to send out this next week before they get to the 120-day mark. That's my hope. I don't know if that really answers your question completely, but it's been an unusual year, so it's really hard to compare this July to last July.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a pulse on what's going on as far as you talk to people, you understand when they say, tell you their woes, how they can't pay their bill. And it sounds like there's really not a lot of that going on in Winnebago, is what I'm hearing.
I agree with that. I think initially there may have been some delay because they didn't know how this was going to affect them. But ultimately, I think they have been pretty good about, I think if there's any, it's very, very small percentage of people that have a serious financial hardship. I do know of one, but they did pay, which shocked me the other day. So I think people are making an effort to keep their water on because they don't want their water off. Some of the other utilities, such as ComEd, Verizon, even Xfinity, I don't know about Mediacom, but they have been based on, from what I've read, by the state, they're not allowed to shut off services to people. So those extensions are through the end of September, I believe. Some are by the 15th of September or the 18th of September have a deadline where they can begin to do shutoffs. Some of them are at the end of September. So there's a moratorium on some utilities, but as far as municipal utilities, I saw that that doesn't apply.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought we could not shut off.
Well, no, I just read that recently on, I believe it's Brad Coles, and it said that it didn't say specifically, but it did say process as normal. So it could be that we could, however, I don't know how the health department would respond to that. That's what they said, but I don't know how the health department would respond to us shutting off water if people aren't able to wash their hands and, keep themselves safely clean.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I would like to speak with someone at the health department prior to us implementing any shutoffs, but I don't see where we could not implement any late fees if that's necessary. But right now, people seem to be complying
Yeah.
and paying the bill. I do believe that we are missing out on late fees because we do have people that are going to the 90 days at least. Like I said, I've got at least maybe 15, could be closer to 20 that are at the 90-day mark.
So I don't
I
know,
hope
it would seem to me, based on your recommendation and the work that Sally put together, these numbers, maybe we should think about starting late fees. I think you wanted to give people at least a 30-day notice or more.
I think that would be good. Some people don't even know that that there's no late fees assessed, because they will still call and say, I need to get it in by the 15th, and then I'll let them know that we are at this point not implementing late fees. So some people, they're oblivious to it. Others may have realized it and are taking advantage of it. But nonetheless, I think we should still give them a notification that late fees will be applied beginning on such and such a date. When I send out the letters to people who are beyond the 120 days, I'm pointing out to them that at this point, late fees haven't been assessed, but they will be soon. So I'm including that in the letter as an incentive to pay.
And do we know when we turn these back on, it's just going to charge, is it going to go back and charge them a fee from the first day they were late, or is it just going forward?
Since that's never happened before, and I think in the process of billing, we don't know what it's going to do. I think my opinion would be, and this is something we can ask Encode, is it only going to charge a late fee based on the amount that already exceeds the current? I don't know that it would go back and retro back to anyone who was ever late, but only apply late fees to their current outstanding balance.
Yeah. That would make sense. It's probably a call worth making.
I think we need to find that out, because I think that needs to be in the communication to the customers that says, hey, it's going to start being charged on this date, and this is how it works.
I agree.
So I think we wanted to make a recommendation.
Oh, we
to
could
the
also
board
tell them
tonight,
that
didn't
it's
we?
going to charge from the very beginning. Yes, that's one of the things, correct. So the question is, when do we want to start? And then also, do we have to start with the normal amount, or can we start with a 5%? And is that worth it, or not even worthwhile? We'll just start at the normal rate.
I would say start at the normal rate. Otherwise, you've got more complicating factors on that software.
Okay.
It would have to be at the 15%. Otherwise, we would have to make an adjustment to our ordinance to allow for a change. Because our current ordinance states
15%.
15%. But I think the big question would be is how Encode would calculate that late fee amount, if it would be only that which is over the current balance amount due.
Well, and if it is, do they have a way that we can sweep everyone with a change, to fix it? I guess is the other question.
Lots of good questions. We could check into that tomorrow, but I think we would have to send out something between the 15th of September and the next billing cycle to let people know. So it would show up on their next bill that on October 15th, any outstanding balances will be assessed the late charge. Carrie can put a note on their billing. Whether or not they read the note, that's up to them. At least they've been notified.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Does October 15th give enough time for that notification? I mean, it's already the middle of September.
I think it would. I think it would be just a simple call to Encode to find out how the late fees are internally in Encode calculated and applied. Then from there we would know.
But our next bill would be that bill, right?
We could put it, well, it would be then, it would be on the September billing. It would be noted on there that late fees will be applied beginning October 15th. So it'd give them a 15-day notice, not a 30-day notice.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, it's already September 15th, so when I get my next bill, if I
Mhm.
have a balance, will I have a late charge, or will it be that my next cycle?
Next, I believe. Correct,
Okay.
Sally?
So Kelly's saying that the bill that will go out on October 1st is for September charges.
Correct.
And that bill is due
Okay.
October 15th. So on that particular bill, we would just have the note. So then the charges would be affected for the October charges on the November 1st bill.
Correct.
Okay,
I guess that's
okay.
how I'm seeing it. And if need be, we can put a notice out on Facebook if that's necessary, where we could say, you know, since March, such and such date, I think it was around the 16th of March, that late fees have been suspended, but effective on October 15th, they will begin to be calculated and assessed.
Just out of curiosity, do we
Um,
know what other municipalities are doing?
N-
Have they turned their late fees back on?
I
I
have
know
seen,
our RWRD did, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Our RWRD turned theirs back on.
Kelly, a question technical on the October 15th. It's really usage as of October 1st we're talking, right?
It would be on the billing that goes out at the end of September. So if September's bill is not paid by October 15th, then the late fees would be assessed on the September billing. So
No,
I don't know if you want to
November
wait
billing.
to, so late fees would be turned on October 15th for the invoicing for September charges, right, Sally?
Oh, that's not
We
what
would-
I said, but I see what you're saying.
Correct. So
I
if we
thought-
want to, so if
I
you
thought
want to
that-
wait till, go ahead, sorry.
I was just thinking, well, when is the notification process then? Because you're saying, well, they would be on the bill that has the notification. And I thought you were saying there would be a bill with notification that it was going to happen on the next bill.
Yeah,
We could do it however you want. So then the late fees would be applied on November 15th then. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying? Okay,
Yes.
But I like that one.
okay. That does give them a full 30 days notice to get their
Yeah.
bills current.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay,
And it
So
gives us time too.
So just for, yes, yeah. So just for clarification purposes here, so I'm going to explain this. We're going to send notice on both September and October's bills. And for the month of October, that bill, which is due by November 15th, if it is not paid in full by November 15th, that is the first effective late date.
yes,
Well,
got it.
Okay.
the late
So,
fee will be on the November bill, right?
so
It'll be
what?
on the November, it's due in November's bill, but it'll be October's water that is being
Right,
late feed.
Correct.
right. Okay. So one more bill of free pass, basically, and then we turn the late fees back on for the bill after that.
Yes.
Yes. So
Okay.
I guess my question is, are we saying that if someone, let's say they're 60 days behind, when we turn those back on, that's for the balance, not just for that month of time that the late fees apply, correct?
Correct.
I believe so, yes. So anything that is beyond the current charges would be assessed the late fee.
Okay.
And then you're just going to have to verify that from Encode first, as far as otherwise you're going to manually be doing bills and then you're going to be swearing at us.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have to, tell the board, you've got to make that phone call to Encode and get the logistics and so forth, but this is our intent. Maybe that's the way we have to present it, if that makes sense.
I agree. I'm actually texting Carrie right now so that we can take care of that this week.
That'd be great.
Okay. So we have a couple of things to vote on and what it looks like here. Do we want to keep going or do we want to vote on the stuff first?
And I think with that Brad Cole thing, don't we have to have roll call even in committees when we're voting on anything with money, or would this not apply?
I believe it's at any point where we have a vote at all. We have to do a roll call.
Okay.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
So
let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I've got two things that I'm tracking that we're going to vote on. Coming from committee, the first one is for the money to come to pay for the Cures Act, and that's going to come out of office maintenance and O&M, and that would be coming from committee. So that is the. Do we need to do a motion and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So can I make that motion, or does it have to be somebody else besides me?
You ask for a motion, I think, and then
Okay.
unless you're there's only two of you, then you have to.
All right. In that case, we're looking for a motion to approve the spending using those accounts.
I'll make the motion, Julie.
Now second, this is Lori.
All right. So Julie makes the motion, and Lori seconds. And Sally, do you? Well, here we go. All in favor? Oh wait, I lied. We have to do a roll call.
A roll call.
So Julie O'Rourke.
Yep.
Laura Morgan.
Yes.
And Jeremy Graham is a yes as well. So that is approved. Sally, do you have the account numbers by chance in front of you?
I do. The office maintenance account in the general fund is 0141661. And the contingency account for O&M is 5144833.
All right. And then with that bullet point as well, as we're following up, not a vote, but the $10,000 for the COVID bill for the attorney. The next thing that we need to vote on is about reinstating the late fees. Just to wrap it up one last time there, we talked about it being for any balance on or after November 15th, which if they were all caught up would really just be October's water. But if they're not, then it would be everything else there, going that full 15%. So can we have a motion for that?
This is Lori. So moved.
I'll second. Julie?
All right. Lori?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Perfect. And Jeremy says yes as well. That passes.
And guys, I do apologize, but I have
All right.
another commitment at 6, so I will drop off, and I will talk to all of you at 7.
Okay. Do you any thoughts on the check deposit reader real quick?
I will be honest, I have not checked my village email in the last 2 weeks due to a potential COVID exposure. I've been dealing with the health department for about 3 hours out of every day, trying to get that figured out. So I am going to abstain from that conversation.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, we will
right.
see you in a little bit.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Take care. All right. Moving on to bank reconciliation then, number 7.
Did I send that to you guys?
I never saw one.
I thought I did.
Sally, is that for June?
Yes.
It's on the intranet.
Ooh.
Sorry. I might have to print it for myself too. I forgot all about that. Would anyone like it emailed?
If you have it up,
You know,
that would
that'll
be
be-
great. I'm trying to log into that.
Yeah, me too. Since I'm still trying to figure out my new computer.
Might be easier if I just go to the board packet because it's in there as a PDF.
You know what? I don't think we got the credit card review either, Sally.
There wasn't one.
Okay.
I didn't get that billing done. I paid the bill, but I didn't record it in our system yet. That's going to happen this week. September.
Bank reconciliation June. Here it is.
Oh, you beat me to it, huh?
It's because of the speedy fast internet here at the village.
Let me see here. Okay, so I'm going to send this to Julie. Okay, I sent it. I have to look at it on screen. I can't believe I didn't have it in my, maybe it's too many things this time. Let me know if you have questions. I still, I actually started working on July, hoping to resolve a $300 shortage in dispersing. And I'm smack dab in the middle of July. So hopefully next month I'll have June resolved as well as July and August.
I don't see on the June a $300 gap. What are you referring to, Sally?
The very last item says need to resolve.
Oh,
20. So that means that there's $320 too much in the dispersing account.
okay.
So I don't know, all these permits have been I redid everything, trying to come up with a better system for processing and just ticking and tying the permits. It's a lot. So in the month of June was when a problem was resolved at the credit card banking part of it, our ePay. They were putting all those permit payments in the O&M fund, and I was having to do these transfers. And then I was able to contact them and resolve the problem. I think it was like June 5th. So that could be some residual from that, but I thought that was all resolved. I just have to double check.
Okay.
Julie, anything else you wanted to look at on the reconciliation?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. And you said Sally, you said the credit card we did not have. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't have the bill timely, and that was my fault. I didn't pick up my mail. So I went online and I paid it, but I haven't processed it in our system yet.
And the credit card review is the one that's got the green banner that we look at of all the credit card purchases every month. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which one did we do last month? If we're back at June.
Well, actually, I noticed that was just residual from the June agenda. I didn't update it to July. Okay. So 2 errors.
Okay. No, that's not a problem. I was like, I swear we just looked over it, but that makes way more sense. Okay. The supplemental ordinance is the next one. We discussed this already. We need to talk to Mary tonight and figure out, what is the game plan for this moving forward, as there was multiple accounts that need to be adjusted.
Yeah, it's well worth
so that doesn't require a vote.
Usually we don't do this just because of the costs for legal, but obviously there's so many things, it's worth the cost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so that should not require a vote. We just need to figure out some information and figure out how to move forward from there.
Yes.
Number 10, Gills disposal. That may or may not be our problem, but we're waiting for a few more months still. I know Frank was looking into that, and I have not heard anything otherwise. And I didn't hear anything of Public Works either, and Community Development. If it is, we'll figure it out tonight.
I listened to our meeting earlier today so that I could do those minutes from last month, and we didn't really have any direction for the Gills, so I'm not sure. I mean, if you guys want me to make some calls, I could. I just don't know what the expectation is.
I don't think it belongs on our agenda.
Honestly, I think we can probably remove it from our agenda as a whole. Frank said he was going to call them, and it was community development. I remember correctly, we only added it to our agenda because we weren't 100% sure if somebody else was talking about it.
Okay.
And Julie, is that how you remember it too?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to number 11, the police donation for the 1,500. If we get the budget supplemental appropriation ordinance, then we'll be fine. But otherwise, if the money's there and they put it in something else, not technically the right answer, but it was the donation, so it's theirs.
Right.
So.
And yeah, You got it. Are there any questions?
I don't think I need more.
I listened to the police meeting and it sounded like everyone was pretty confused.
Yes, they were, and me included, but I'm understanding more now.
Okay, good. And typically, and that whole thing was really weird because Kelly received this notice that said the insurance company had a 4th of July donation and that she should fill out this form so they could electronically put it in our account. So she did it. And then when she sent the thank you letter, the lady there said that she didn't intend for it to be for the 4th of July. She intended to receive a check and give it to police. So my role in that was to transfer the money from 4th of July to the general fund for police. And it's just, this money has sort of had a cursed trail all the way through.
Well, even the documentation that came with the check said 4th of July, but that was not what her intention was for that $1,500.
Exactly. Yeah, it's looking back at it, it's strange and it's fine, whatever, but it clearly says 4th of July. So it's just a little tidbit for you.
All right. So I think we're good with that one then. And then if we do the supplemental, we can just add it in, and that way you don't have to worry about it coming out of a different fund, and we're fine.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on. Oh, I do have a question. They could go on new business. Where could I get a copy of the most recent budget? Like as in, when we do the budget, you've got the how much is budgeted and how much we spent with all the line items.
I emailed that to you for the board meeting.
Okay.
I emailed it on
So I would
Thursday.
take a look. Okay. Moving on to number 12 then, and I'll take a look at that one, is the check deposit reader. So with some negotiations, you got it cut in half. Nicely done. And we're looking at this because of the mass amount of checks that are coming in, and the with COVID and trying to use the same machines.
Yeah. And even just the fact that due to construction and things, Carrie's has that locked away in the police department, and it's difficult for me to get time in there to process my payments. And we've always had sort of this inconvenience of having just the one machine at her desk signed into her computer. And now that COVID is a thing, it really isn't, I guess, kosher to use other people's equipment if we can help it. So I think we could throw it at the wall and see if we can get reimbursed. But I don't know. It's totally up to you guys. It would be nice.
Julie, what are your thoughts?
It seems reasonable to me. I think you sent a follow-up email that the cost would be like $400 for a 2-year cost or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And even if CARES Act would reimburse, they'd probably only do it for, during a couple of months of COVID related, if we have a vaccine in 2 months, that game's over, I would imagine. But, it's possible.
Okay.
At one point, Sally, and I know we don't have time for this can of worms, but at one point we did talk about doing more electronic billing of everything. And I know we're not there yet, and we'll probably have to do this anyway, but that's something we really want to be revisiting at some point. We're not going to do it this meeting, but it might defray the need for this, but that easily could be a year off.
True, and and this gives them a 2-year deadline to have everything up and running, and then we won't need it at all.
There you go.
Well, these are checks that we receive, so I guess, yeah, is that what you meant, that we would have a way for people to pay electronically?
Yeah, and I don't know how much of the scanner's being used for water bills, scanning and all of that or what, and then we could also go to permits being electronically feed if we, I mean, that's the way the world's gone. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people have service charges if you drop off a piece of paper, but we don't have to be that strict, but that might be where we're headed longer term.
Well, COVID actually really helped with that. All those permits, the majority of them were paid electronically on our website.
No, that's good.
So the checks that I receive, maybe 20 or 30 a month. Things like, sometimes it's permits, sometimes it's like that IRS check or things like that that are not utility related. But yeah, I don't know if when we receive checks, if we contact the people and say next time we want you to pay electronically, I don't know if we can do that or.
That's for future us to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can of worms.
I think for efficiency's sake, it seems like a reasonable investment. But spread that over 2 years, it's not that much a month.
I agree.
Sounds good to me. So we don't need to bring that to the board. We can just do that on our own then, right?
That's within Kelly's spending capabilities, so I think we could go ahead and order that and get it approved.
Okay.
We can always mention it at the board meeting tonight, just in light of it potentially being partially Cures Act refundable. I don't know. It could be worth just a mention to have it in the board meeting minutes.
I agree. I don't think you have to get the approval to spend it, although I don't know. Do you think other board members may have a problem with it? Maybe you should do it that way.
No, I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with it.
Yeah. The treasurer doesn't ask for much usually.
Just more time usually.
I've been hanging out with Chad. Right. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so going on to number 13, the annual cash in lieu of the gas. So we wanted to add this one because if I remember right, we weren't spending as much as we would be getting back.
Right. So I may be able to find out, when am I going into the office? I'm actually going in on Wednesday. I have a meeting with First National Bank. So I will grab those bills and calculate according to the chart that Dave sent me this afternoon and see what each type of account, what those billing fees would be for the month, and then we'll have a better idea of how much savings we would have, if any.
Okay. So let's push that off till next month then?
Yes.
Push off until next month. All right. The next one here, number 14, we're almost there, is our policy project. And with this, is this the financial policy? We talked about getting a strategic planning committee together.
No, this is something that probably came to be in your time off, Jeremy, and it was just we were realizing we didn't have specific policies on things, and gosh, it's been on there for so long, and we've had greater priorities that I can't even remember what policy prompted it. I think it was the fund reserve, right, Sally? So we did a fund reserve policy on how much we wanted to always have in reserve when we did the budget. But then there were other things that I can't even tell you. It's just a set of policies that would, that we should follow when it comes to the finances of the village. We just didn't have much. And although I think, Sally, you said there was stuff at some point, but nobody could find it. So it's not for tonight. We'll just leave it at that.
Kelly and I keep
Okay.
talking about when things get back to normal. I wonder when that's going to be.
I don't know what normal is yet.
Yeah.
Really? You didn't get a big taste of normal, did you, Kelly?
No, not at all.
Well, good news. We can handle all of this. Then when it gets back to normal, we'll be perfect. All right. In that case, we'll move on there. Any new business? I mean, we kind of.
I made a note under new business that when I was attending the Public Works meeting, Chad had given direction for the cost of a generator for Village Hall, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, Jeremy, or.
Yes, I can pull that up here. So just to fill you in, Julie, long story short, they're looking at a generator for the village. It's been in the talks for the last 10 years, is what I've been told. And no one's just ever pulled the trigger. The argument both sides was that it is important to have because we can't work without it if we run out of power. And then Mike's argument is, well, that's the same case for anywhere. If you run out of power at Walgreens, you can't work at Walgreens.
But
Let's see.
the idea that our police wouldn't be able to operate has always been, to me, kind of scary.
The cost that was quoted is $10,500 for the generator and installation to be here. Public Works made a strong point that this needs to happen because, again, like I said, it's been 10 years so far and we're just kind of floating by and never needed it yet, but when we do need it, it's going to be bad.
I thought this came up in a prior board meeting, and we said, we something on the order of, okay, yeah, we've needed it for 10 years, but we haven't needed it. Now we absolutely need it during COVID, when the finances aren't that great. Wasn't that kind of where we left this conversation in the last board meeting?
That's how I remember it. That's how I remember it. I mean, at the very least, and maybe this comes down to budgeting time, so again, that pushes out another year, is we can create a sinking fund for it, and in 2 years, which would then make it 12, we would easily have enough. Not a big deal on that end, but if we needed it during this COVID time, until then, until the next 2 years, what's going to happen? The other side of that is I don't know if we have $10,500 sitting there to easily spend it.
How much is in
Especially
that
if we.
contingency fund, Sally?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How much was in that contingency fund that you want to take out for the front office stuff? Do you remember?
Well, that was in O&M. So we talked about dividing the cost between the three funds. And so 10,500 divided by 3 is 3,500 per. And personally, I think we should just budget that in 2021. This week, I'm going to print out budget worksheets for the department heads and schedule meetings to go over that with them because we're already talking 2021. So to me, that seems the simplest, just make it a priority in 2021. And we do have some new revenue streams. We have cannabis, which has brought in $1,800. Video gaming has brought in $5,000 during a pandemic. Not too bad. So
Jeremy, why did this come up again in Public Works after we kind of put it to rest, or so I thought at the board meeting last time?
That is an excellent question. Let me pull up my notes.
I think Chad was talking to the vendor and it came up. That's the impression I got.
Yeah, because it was an actual item on the agenda.
Oh.
But yeah, I think it's when he was going through talking about getting the stuff fixed and getting the new repairs. I think it was just part of the conversation.
Sally, have you spent any time trying to find 3,500 from each of the 3 areas, or?
No, I have not. But I will tell you that I looked at the revenues so far, and I made some notes. Our budget this year, we're currently at 66.67% of the budget, and the general fund is 2.63% over budget, over the budgeted expected revenues. And O&M is 1% below anticipated revenues, mostly because of that 1% sales tax being down. I think, we could literally just keep our eye on that and see how things look at the end of the year and slip it into the budget, but we may be able to just take it out of reserves.
Yeah, so we can wait till the budget and we can look at it and see if we can fit it in there, no problems. And if we can't fit it in, no problems, then we'll have to look around and see what we'll have to move around to make it work.
And maybe it could be talked about just to find out if anyone has strong objections. I know that Stan was all for it at the meeting, or so he said. I don't mean to speak for him, but that's what it sounded like to me at Public Works. However you guys feel is whatever. But it's none of us are expecting it to happen, so
Yeah,
Okay, well,
I guess,
I think we go ahead.
I was just gonna say, during a pandemic, to have something off budget like this doesn't seem responsible to me. So, but if, because our numbers are coming in much better than what we thought our worst case scenario would be, what I'd like to suggest is we look at the budget, like you said, Sally, towards the end of the year, and if we think we have the room to maneuver it, get it in December. And if we don't, then we budget for it in 2021. So you still get it within a few months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do feel that, we could be in a really tight spot if there was a true emergency that took out power for our police department. And, it also helps us to know, we've talked about this in the past at the board level that, citizens have an expectation that, we'll be there for them in these circumstances. And we've just always, the staff at least has always felt that, us losing power for any certain amount of time just seems kind of ridiculous, but here we are. So
All right. So it sounds like we got a good plan in place for that one. All right. So executive session, I don't see any need for that. Moving on then would be the next meeting and then adjourn. Julie, do you want to try to plan something now, or do we want to figure it out later when we talk to Lori?
Maybe I'll look on my phone and then I don't have to get up.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Might as well wait for Lori.
Okay, sounds good. And we can, yeah, we'll just text and figure it out, and then we'll go from there. Perfect. If there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. And you're gonna have to second.
Julie makes the motion and Jeremy seconds. It is now 18:30, and that is it. Have a wonderful 30 minutes off, and I will see you guys in a little bit.
All right.
later.
Bye.
Bye.